Mr. Mayor, you ready? Great. Okay. And staff double checking. We're good. We're good. Okay. Good evening. Welcome to the Town of Emmitsburg Town Meeting for Monday, October 3rd. At this time, I'll ask, in respect to decorum for our meeting, could we silence our phones? We will now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Future meetings include the Citizens Advisory Committee will meet on October 18th at 7:30 p.m. here at the town office and will be available on Zoom. The Fraley Road Farm Development Workshop will occur here on October 24th, which is Monday, at 7 p.m. And again, this will occur in the town office, but it will also be presented on Zoom. The Planning Commission will meet on Tuesday, October 25th. That's Tuesday at 7 p.m. at the town office. And again, that's on Zoom. And our next town council meeting is scheduled for Monday, November 7th at 7:30 p.m. here in the town office. And again, it will be available on Zoom. Are there any other meeting announcements to share? No? Okay. All right. I hope as everyone's had the opportunity to look at the meeting minutes from the September 12th meeting. Are there any changes or modifications that we hope to see? No. Okay. Is there a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second for Commissioner Ritz's motion?
I'll second.
Thank you. Motion's been made by Commissioner Ritz. It's been seconded by Commissioner Sweeney. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. We now turn to the deputy for the police report. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. It's a town report for September. We handled 420 calls for service, 5 arrests, 130 directed patrols, 100 traffic stops, 1 wind card completed. DFC Bartholow's cars still down, getting repairs, COVID related. 6 annual days were used, and that's pretty much all I have. You have any questions for me?
How you liking your new car?
Doing good.
Just one thing, when I was out and about over the last couple of weeks, the people in Silo Hill were, believe it or not complaining about students or speeding, but stop signs.
Okay.
We just try to watch that a little bit. If you,
Yes, sir. Take care of it.
Thanks so much.
Thank
I
you.
have one. We will have trick or treating this month, at the end of the month.
Mhm.
We will need the police to lead the parade.
Do you have the date on that, sir?
31st is a Monday, and
Okay,
the parade starts at 7.
I'll cover it.
And then we'll have a block party at the fire hall.
Roger that.
Mr. President, I actually have a question for
Yes, sir.
Deputy Hall.
Mr. Ritz.
Follow up from last month. I know with some Brookfield residents came in about speeding. Have there been any updates?
I have not gotten any violations there.
Okay.
I mean, I've done at least 10 to 20 directed patrols a night out there. And I've ran into the commissioners out there, talked to several citizens. There's not a crime wave in Brookfield.
Okay.
So we'll keep monitoring it. Did snag some speeders on Irishtown Road, but nothing egregious, 11, 12 mile an hour over. It's about the average there.
Okay.
No stop sign violations that I could call.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
You got a comment that you were over policing the area. Is that okay? So you're not still doing that, are you?
I'm going to keep policing, sir. I promise you that.
This is Goldilocks. Chair's too big, chair's too small. a lot of
Right.
stuff, okay, but we do thank you for crime watch. Appreciate it.
No problem, sir.
Anything else for the deputy? Thank you very much. Grateful. Okay, we move forward now to the town manager's report. Ms. Willits.
Good evening. This is the town manager's report for August. I'll highlight some of the key areas. Related to streets, the contractor repaired a section of the streetlights on East Main Street from Federal Avenue to Creamery Road. They also installed the new Wayside, the St. Euphemia School sign in front of 52 DePaul Street. And then staff is installing more veterans banners on streetlight poles on East and West Main Street. Related to the parks, the staff assisted with the National Night Out. They dug out and put mulch around the park benches, they also cut up a tree that fell in the parks and hauled it to the burn pile and replaced some old trash cans with some new ones. Related to water, the first bullet point, it should read Rainbow Lake is below the spillway level. 16.6 is normal. At the time of this report, it was 15.8 feet. As of today, it's at 15.2 feet. If we get to 14.6 feet, we will initiate voluntary restrictions. If we get to 13.6 feet, we will ask the board to implement mandatory restrictions. Hopefully, we do not get to that point. Listed below are the optimum well levels and our current well level. For water production and consumption, we produced an average of 226,409 gallons per day, and we consumed an average of 240,750 gallons per day, which means the amount of backwash water in August was about 13.74%. We purchased 424,100 gallons of water from Mount St. Mary's. Related to wastewater, we treated an average of 336,674 gallons and consumed 240,750, which means that 4.32% of wastewater treated this month was wild water. We had no spills of untreated sewage, and we did not exceed the plant's design capacity anytime in the month of August. We received 1.3 inches of precipitation, and we have a surplus of 0.38 inches over the last 6 months. Trash pickup will remain Mondays in the month of October. Listed are below some of the meetings I attended in August. Noteworthy items, the nighttime to town flows are going up an average of 65 gallons per minute. Staff's keeping an eye out on it for a possible leak or some unauthorized usage. We installed the new solar controller for the LG Sonic. The water line for Rudders passed the pressure test. The pump station is now connected all the way to the trout property, tested and passed. Staff's working on updating GIS and missing data points on water and sewer. MDE approved staff change. They recognize Jared Brantner now as the water and superintendent. Dan Fissel's last day was Friday. Staff weed ate around the Silo Hill catch basin for MS4. We also mowed, weed ate, and weed killed on 507 East Main Street. The staff and contractor also dug out and installed new curb stops at 100 West Main and 100 West North Avenue. Staff handed out 32 shut-off door hangers and only had 2 shut-offs. And then staff took down 4 trees at 303 West Lincoln Avenue. That's all I have.
Great. Do we have questions for the town manager related to the report? Mr. Ritz? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. Regarding trash pickup, I know April and October historically have been bulk trash pickup. Do we know what day it is in October?
It is October 22nd.
Thank you. The meeting with Jubilee staff and the contractor regarding the surveillance camera, is that strictly for Jubilee's use? I was curious as to what town involvement was there.
No, that's part of the package that we submitted for a grant through the Governor's Office of Crime and Prevention. And so it's going to be a town surveillance camera.
Okay, because I saw the one was already installed, I guess, where North Avenue comes out. at,
Right. So the one
East End.
there at Jubilee is only a surveillance, a 360, well, close to being 360-degree surveillance camera. It is not one of the license plate readers.
Mhm.
The one there in the area of North Ave is one of the license plate readers.
Okay. That's all I had. Thank you.
Mr. Davis?
Just a real quick one. Really didn't come out of your report, but the trees on Main Street, who is responsible for the trimming of those? We're to the point now where people are having trouble getting out of their cars and people can't walk side by side when they're coming to the trees.
The ones in the tree wells?
Yes.
I believe they are town property, but I will confirm with Jimmy and Zach tomorrow.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, there's several residents that ask whether they should be trimming the trees.
I believe they are ours, but I will confirm.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Spain?
I have none.
The shut off, sorry. The door hangers, the shut off notices. Do you feel that bolstered people's action? Like it helped people recognize they needed to move forward?
Absolutely. We typically run anywhere between 10 and 20 shutoffs.
Terrific. Okay. And a follow-up staff, you mentioned on August 3rd, you had the interaction with Mount St. Mary's regarding the upcoming event. Was that the Mount in the Park event, the freshman year?
Yes.
Freshman event?
Yes.
And as an outcome, as a consequence, was there an extra burden on staff for like garbage collection or pickup, or did the Mount kind of keep its end up of the bargain for the outcomes?
Yeah, I think it was a very successful event. We did have a follow-up meeting between staff and Mount staff, and felt it was a very successful event. There was no extra burden to the town, and I know they're looking forward to hosting it next year as well.
Great, thank you. Okay, any other questions for town manager? No, okay, all right, we move on now to the town planners report.
Did you want any update on the grant administrators report? Is there any update?
Yes, I think that, yes, if we could, sure.
Okay.
Well, are you prepared for it? I mean,
I
we don't-
am.
we
She
don't want to
sent-
catch you off guard.
Yeah, she sent me an update for hers.
Okay,
If you give me 1 second, I'll pull it up. The things she wanted me to highlight. I thought I printed it. All right. So just a few areas that she asked that I highlight for her report. The Public Works equipment, that's the USDA grant. The project's almost complete. We're waiting on the last piece of equipment, which is the 4x4 work truck. It should arrive around November 10th. Obviously, it was delayed due to supply chain issues. The advanced license plate reader, the equipment was installed between September 15th and 19th. And the system will hopefully be fully up and running this week once network connection is made between the modems and the server. And then once that's complete, then there'll be a training and a standard operating procedures created for the deputies. The concession stand and restroom, community park, Fox and Associates is currently working on a stormwater management plan, topographic work and permits for the project. They estimate to have that completed by December 1st. After that, we'll go ahead and order the prefabricated building and then utility hookup. We're still aiming to have it ready for the spring 2023 baseball season. Again, the North Seaton Avenue and DePaul Street water line projects ranked number 8 and number 9 out of 43 by the state. I did have Senator Quarterman, I believe that's how you pronounce his last name, send letters to the staff, to the state on behalf of the town, advocating for this project. We're still waiting on whether it's going to be loan or grant funded or both. We should hear about that in the spring of 2023. Creamery Road Pump Station. We received approval from Frederick County MDE for the stormwater management permit and building permits, which were submitted in September. Once that's completely done, the final design will be submitted to USDA and still hoping to break ground in early of 2023. So far, we're on, I think, year 3 or 4 of this project. The street light replacement project, the first phase is 106 street lights on Main Street from Creamery Road to Worthing's Court and all of South Seaton. We're waiting on announcement of 2 more grants in January 2023 before proceeding with the project. The project cost is estimated about $234,000. And then Silo Hill Playground improvements. Playground equipment has been ordered and should be installed in January or February 2023. The half basketball court will be installed prior to installation of the playground equipment. We just don't have a date as of yet. So those are things she wanted me to highlight from her report.
Any questions for staff? Related to the grants? Mr. Ritz, yes, sir.
This is an overall question, not specific to any of these. Of all these grants and any future ones, how many are related to our membership as an associate member in the Maryland Main Street program?
So we're actually working on one right now, and I don't see it listed here. There is one that she is working on that is part of the Main Street affiliate program, Main Street Improvement Grant, downtown improvements via funding of streetlight replacement on Main Street. I don't know off the top of my head which one it is, but she is currently working on one. As an affiliate, we're able to receive up to a certain amount of grants. Once you become a full-time Main Street program, then you're eligible for more. I know Frederick County is coming up to tour our downtown
Mhm.
here in the next month or so as part of being a Main Street affiliate.
Okay. Are any of those, any in the future linked to any business development?
The grants,
Mhm.
off the top of my head, I don't know what they're offering right now. There's different grants at different times through Main Street. If I get more information, I'll certainly pass it along.
Great, thanks.
Any other questions for staff related to the grant reports? Nope. Okay, we'll move forward. We turn to you again for the planners report.
Go over some of the areas on Zach's report. For Board of Appeals, he received a variance application for 277 DePaul Street and started processing that. I know the Board of Appeals heard the case or heard it on September 27th. Related to grants, he has a Chesapeake Bay Trust grant, and he completed 2 Park and Rec grant forms for the grant coordinator, and he completed the final report for the Keep Maryland Beautiful grant. For MS4, the Silo Hill Basin retrofit, he finalized the Frederick County permits. Reconstruction to start the last week of September, first week of October, weather permitting. Tree plantings, the daughters are providing another 9 acres at their property along US 15 and 20 acres at their property on South Seaton Avenue. Continue to work on the current year MS4 permit report. I believe I signed off on that on Friday. He met with daughters representatives and Public Works Director on August 11th regarding an outfall stabilization partnership. Completed 2 outfall stabilization projects. Completed 9 zoning permit applications, 5 backflow preventer permit applications, 1 no zoning permit required form. Planning Commission, he's worked on the Christ Community Church, the Brookfield, Rudders, Village Liquors, Emmitsburg East Industrial Park 2 and Irish Town Road, project management. 500 East Main Street right-of-way plat, Brookfield parcels. He prepared an APFO approval letter. Village Liquors received and reviewed cost estimates for bonds. East Emmitsburg Industrial Park 2 received and started processing final subdivision and final forest conservation plans. Started talking with the Maryland Department of Planning on the next steps for the 2025 comprehensive plan update. Miscellaneous, he's continued to work with sewer and water superintendent and myself and a contractor on a GIS project update. On the last page, he has new business and development updates. I can try to answer questions.
Any questions for staff related to the planners report? No? Okay, all right. Mr. Davis and Mr. Sweeney, nothing?
No.
No? Okay, okay, very good. So at this time, we turn to the commissioners for commissioner comments. Mr. Ritz.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to congratulate Commissioner Davis in his reelection bid and to Commissioner-elect Bowman Pollitt for her victory. I look forward to working with both of you for at least 1 year. My term's up next. So. I attended the first meeting of the newly formed Emmitsburg Business Alliance. I welcome that opportunity to answer some of their questions and to listen to some of their concerns. I feel that not only will they be successful in helping each other out, I also feel that they'll be helpful to us in promoting and maintaining business growth. And finally, I attended the 100th anniversary of this very building and was very pleased with the turnout. I had my office key on me that day and was able to give a quick tour of this room and our commissioner chambers in the back to a group of high school alumni. And I just stood back and listened to them as they reminisced. Also a special shout out to Main Street Sweets. The cake that day was delicious. Thank you. That's all I have.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Davis.
I too attended the anniversary celebration for the school, and I ended up right where the principal's office was. I don't know how that happened, but that's where I just kind of went there. So yes, I did go to school here, but it was a very nice celebration. So send out a big thank you to Dan Fissel, who retired after his long employment here. He's going to be missed. He was a wealth of information, but we feel very, very happy with his replacement, and I'm sure they'll do just fine. And finally, our thoughts and prayers goes out to the Boyle family, longtime resident and businessman, Leo Mike Boyle, passed away this week. He was a big part of this community when I was growing up, not only with his business, but he was a very big contributor and leader of the local ambulance service when it was still being run by the VFW and then by the American Legion. He was just a super, super good guy. And so our thoughts and prayers are out to his family. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Sweeney?
Yes, I just, Halloween's coming up, as I said earlier. Trick or treating and the parade and the block party will be on October 31st, Halloween on Monday, October 31st. Trick or treating will be from 5:30 to 6:45. The lineup for the parade will be from 6:45 to 7. And the parade will start at 7 o'clock from DePaul Street, the church parking lot. And it'll go down through town to the back end. We'll come in the back end of the fire department. And then we will have a block party and give out the prizes for the children for the costumes and to the grownups also. Because they'll come out and have a good time, and it's all free. And thanks to all the organizations in town who help put this on. It's not just one organization, it's all the organizations and businesses in town. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Burns?
I just want to say congratulations to Commissioner Davis and Commissioner Bohm. Good luck. I also want to say thank you to the fellow commissioners, the mayor, staff, all the residents of Emmitsburg who supported me over the last 3 years. I made this a really enjoyable time. I really loved what I did over the last 3 years, but I felt as though my calling to be a father and dad to the 4 children was a little more important at this time and time consuming. So I want to say thank you to everybody. Good luck. I feel like we're in very capable and very good hands to lead us over the next year until Mr. Ritz makes his decision on what he wants to do. And good luck. Oh, there's your key for the future.
Very good. Thank you, sir. I was also able to attend the high school anniversary, the 100 years here, which is a stunning thought. The alumni were very engaged. They were very active with what was going on in the day, but also there's a very strong alumni association that's very well led. And we'll see something more about that in our November meeting, but they have a very robust social group. It's very impressive that the relationships have endured. And, you know, I hope when I'm there, the friends that I've had and maintained, I'll still be able to have and maintain in the far future. I'll be bringing something forward in the November meeting about bees and a bee city, as opposed to a tree city. Not that they don't jive, but a thought. So I'll put my little hippie bona fides there. The other piece is I want to thank the board, the mayor, staff for getting phase 1 of Pembroke Woods paved. There were some concerns about that. Specifically, one concern from a resident related to had the original pavement had a top coat. Did it get a top coat? And I contacted the staff at Thermont Paving, and they advised me that when they removed it, there was very definitely a top coat that was in place. So when the original work had been done, the town had done its proper business, and they exercised their due diligence. I want to thank Commissioner Burns for his kindness for serving and his excellence in serving. There are many things that happen for commissioners, and Mr. Burns was profoundly reliable, as are our other commissioners. So we will miss you. We welcome Commissioner-elect Pollitt Bowman. Am I saying that in the right order? Bowman, Pollitt, I'm sorry. Okay, I will learn that, I promise. Welcome. We look forward to serving with you. And finally, I'll put in a word for Dan Fissel. One of the first things I did when I was elected is I got to visit the water treatment plant. And one of the first people I visited with was Dan, who walked me through the whole process. And then he did the extra yard and the extra length, and he took me over to the wastewater treatment plant on his time, which he did not have to do. And it was then I really saw the quality of the folks who are very much invisible from time to time in town. And I was very grateful for that. So I'll say this in the most optimistic way. I hope we have his phone number because I'm sure there are valves that we don't know about that he might. So, but congratulations to him on his retirement. So those are my statements.
So before you go to the mayor,
Yes, sir.
I forgot one
Mr.
very
Davis, sure, go
important
ahead.
thing. And you see me up here playing with my phone because I wanted to keep this article up. But anyway, there was an article that came out September 12th. The 10 most beautiful, charming small towns in Maryland. And Emmitsburg came out number 9. We were 1 in front of Thurmont. They were number 10. But it's an article that says only in your state. And it says posted in Maryland. I'm not sure what this is, but it's so we came out number 9 in the whole state. So I think that was great.
Navy beats Army on that Emmitsburg ahead of Thurmont thing.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
That's right.
we'll take the 1 win a season. Mr. Mayor, forgive me. The turkey trot is going to happen for Thanksgiving. It will happen Thanksgiving Day. We have not found a sponsor in the community. I'm asking if volunteers want to join me. That's great. But I will be running that flag up the hill in my turkey outfit. So it will occur, and I welcome any help, and I'll help. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, TJ.
Thank you.
Even though you're an Eagle fan.
Hey,
Go Gophers. Thank you very much. Very good. Great. Yeah. No hay fever, excuse me. Wait till he makes the rounds.
Mr. Burns, you left some paperwork to complete? No.
Okay, thank you. Welcome, Amy. Welcome here, and welcome to you again, Mr. Davis. Look forward to my free coffees. Again, I hope. The election judges were sworn in, all 3 of them, right after our meeting the next day. We had meetings with our attorney on several occasions. One was about leases, one was about the Fraley annexation. On the 14th, I had a podcast with Ron Sarnicki, Executive Director of National Fallen Fighters Foundation. They will be visiting our town this weekend and could be up to 5,000 people coming here. There'll be a tribute to 150 plus firemen. This will be the last October. It will be celebrated. It will start in the spring next year as the annual date. The weather, whether it's snowing or 100 degrees, I think they're decide to get some less challenging environment. Was at the library opening. It was terrific, and the Wayside exhibit turned out wonderfully, and everybody was there. It was good to have the county executive come up again to do that. Reverend Timothy May, Frederick County Volunteer Firefighters Chaplain, was on a podcast with me. I went to the Emmitsburg Business Alliance, and very good. So good to have businesses to get together and talk and chew on some things. And it was good. I've been a businessman here for 26 years, and I always enjoy things like that. Let's see. Maryland Municipal League went to the dinner meeting. We went in there with our flag, hoping to get $100,000 of the grant money. It's usually a bidding war, and we went in asking for 100,000. We got $100,000 for the 3 projects we wanted. And it was a very, very good evening. I enjoyed the evening with everybody again. Let's see, Dan Thistle, we had a wonderful going away party for him, a little thing here. It's he's terrific. He makes up all these words for chemicals, and we're supposed to be really impressed, but he was really a special person. 28 years here. It speaks highly of town, and this is the 2nd year in a row. I think we've become in 9th ahead of Thurmont, so it's good. We're doing that in the same thing. So we're keeping up the good work and working to it. It's a good environment. I like the grants that are going on here. We have Ripley's Cream, Rudders, Village Liquors, Worthen's Way, a condominium. We got a park and ride. We got the Trout Farm and Fraley Farm, Federal Stone, Emmett Ridge 2. There's that's I don't know what that's a mystery property. Don't know where that's going to go, but a lot of activity here, and I say as a businessman, it's a wonderful environment here, and probably the most important thing is that we respect the rights of all the people who live here, and that we I do pay fees. I have a lot. I pay trash fees on. I don't have no trash on that lot, but you have fees, and it's for the greater good. It keeps everything down. If I pay that, maybe it works into that, and why fight it? We all have fees, but we're going to need these people, our staff, and we can't, as a business, can't pass that all on to the general public. They just can't put it. This is a very pro business. We're right on track for Main Street. We went through an affiliate, became a sustainable community, got our grants downtown, which have accumulated to over $1 million worth of work being done downtown on properties, and more coming our way. It just opened up, I think, in October here. So it's a very good environment. And so I'm just speaking for my 26 years here. And again, that's my voice. And I think that's it. I thank you and very much.
Thank you, sir. We move on now to public comments. I'm going to take them in the order they were presented. Staff, I want to clarify something. Did anybody sign up for Zoom?
We do, I believe the gentleman listed number 1 is on Zoom.
Oh, very good. Okay. All right. So Dr. Samuel Christian from the National Association of Black Veterans of Western Maryland. Sir, are you with us? Okay. So he has to turn his mic on. Is that what you're saying? Okay. So Dr. Christian, if you could turn your mic on, perhaps that would help.
You see video?
Okay. Dr. Christian, I'm not sure if you can hear us at the meeting, but we're unable to hear you. We're told by staff you need to turn your microphone on. Okay, staff says that.
Okay,
Wait.
I think I got it.
Very good.
Am I on?
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, sir. So I'll ask you to do the following. Please just introduce yourself and your topic, and you'll have the floor for 4 minutes.
Good. Thank you. And good evening, everyone. And thank you, Madeline. Madeline has been extremely efficient and professional, and I thank her for accommodating us this evening. I would like to yield. Is Julian available?
Yes, sir, I am.
Yes, sir. You, as we said, you'd lead off on that. Thank you, Julian.
Okay, so Julian, if you could introduce yourself and identify your organization also.
Okay, I will.
Thank you.
My name is Julian Murray. I'm with
Thank
the
you.
National Association of Black Veterans of Western Maryland. And we just like to extend our gratitude for allowing us to speak to you this evening in such a short notice. I would like to comment on the doughboy, the World War I doughboy. With we noticed that the names of the colored, as it is identified on the plaque, the colored soldiers at the bottom of the plaque, and they're also titled the colored soldiers, and we was considering to request that those names be placed in the body of the rest of the names that were there, because they all served at the same time in World War I, and we want to make them inclusive and to recognize them as a part of our overall military. They were included in the combat, so we like to be included in the recognition as well. So I don't want to take too much time, but I like to yield to Dr. Sam.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, and so basically, we understand and accept that that was customary and that was, a product of the times. But times have changed, and throughout the state and indeed throughout the country, this has been addressed. And I understand that in the past, we do know about the accident in 2015, I believe, when the statue was knocked over. This is a separate issue, as Murray mentioned. And, as soldiers, we leave no one behind. We military honor the service as everyone equally, those who gave their lives. And so we just would like to address that and, get whatever guidance we can from the State Historical Society or other commissions dealing with monuments and historical areas, so that this can be rectified in terms of the cost that may be involved, and how we'd go about doing it. We just would like to open that discussion, and certainly probably have a meeting set up with appropriate, interested parties so that we could resolve this in a timely fashion. I also have my commander, Gregory McCullers, and is Sam Key there as well? If commander would like to make any comments, that would be helpful.
Thanks, Dr. Christian, and thanks, Julian. Thanks to the commissioners for allowing us to speak this evening. As already been stated, the World War I Dobor Memorial in your fine town, we see an issue has been brought to our attention about the placement of 3 African-American names at the bottom of the statue and titled as colored. And as Dr. Christian just alluded to, we would like to reach a resolution to integrate the soldier's name among their other comrades, because that's always also been alluded to. We all served as veterans, and in our time, it's an integrated military. We had each other's backs, so we just feel it's only right for those 3 names now to be integrated amongst the other names that served on World War I from Emmitsburg. And I'll yield back to Dr. Christian. Thank you.
Sir, for public comment, could we get your name, please? I have the rank as commander, but could we get your name, please?
Yes, sir. My name is Gregory McCullers.
Great. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Our comment time has been limited to 4 minutes. So just a quick follow-up question, because I think this is, a very important issue. Does town staff have contact information for your organization and for yourselves?
Well,
I will yield back to Dr. Christian from this point on. Go ahead, Doctor.
thank you, Commander. Madeline has my email and my telephone number. Yes.
Terrific. Okay. All right. Mr. Davis. Yes, sir.
Yeah, gentlemen, thanks for speaking to us tonight. But several years ago, this was brought to the attention of the town board before my time on the board, and the families of the gentlemen that were listed on the plaque were very vocal about wanting that part of history preserved and that plaque to be left the way it was. So it's not that we haven't looked at it, but I believe the town honored the wishes of the families of those gentlemen, just so you have a little history of that.
Yes, very good. And I was about to mention that in the limited time that we have, and thank you, sir, for bringing that up. That is, in fact, historically accurate as far as I don't know the name offhand, but the reporter who did some reporting on that back in early, about 7-8 years ago, Mr. Julian, Mr. Murray, did address this. And so the thinking is, and what we'd like to do is to have a discussion about it, the various monuments around the state and, across the country are not really subject to the particular individuals. And so what we think is that if there's some kind of consensus from the state level we could modernize and update and make sure we give every due respect and invitation. If there's a small ceremony to address that issue, that the descendants and the families of those people be accorded all due respect and honored for the sacrifice of their family. But we do not believe that it would be appropriate for that. And the plaque is a museum piece. It is of historical value. We are not in any way recommending that it be taken out and tossed in the garbage, but it is of great value, but probably not as on the monument itself in public display. So this, we are welcome, eager to have that discussion, and certainly to invite other interested parties from the state and elsewhere who may have some stake in the process to give us some guidance on that matter. I thank you.
So moving forward, talking to staff, I don't know that this would be something that we could be prepared for sufficiently for November meeting. So perhaps December, perhaps January is an agenda item.
I think on staff's end, we need to go back through and research the minutes and what was actually talked about back in 2015 when this initially was brought up with the statutes, and bring the interested parties that spoke at that time. I know there were people that were very passionate on both sides of it. So yeah, I can start working on it. And then if Matt, I know Matty has his contact information.
Okay.
We can at least start the conversations on the staff level.
So perfect world December, perfect world January, if things fall together for a discussion item as an agenda item.
Probably January, once you see my list for November.
Okay, good. Okay, so
I mean, I can shoot for December.
sure. Okay.
Worst case scenario, January.
Okay, so let's assume worst case scenario, it will be January. Best case scenario, it will be December. This comes back as an agenda item, potentially for discussion. Okay, I don't know that we would make a decision on it at that point in time, based on how events transpired last time. That, you know, we want to kind of cast a broad net for participation. So, gentlemen, thank you very much. We appreciate your time this evening. Thank you for presenting. And it looks like we will have an agenda item for December or January 2023. So we'll hear back from staff in November. And is that enough time to hear back from you, staff? I don't want to speak for you without consulting you.
For December?
To hear back in November, to hear when we can schedule it. Like next month, do you think you'll have a sense as to when it's either going to be December or January?
I should.
Okay, thank you.
So
Okay.
what we were thinking, if I may just make
Yes,
this
sir.
parting comment, is, you know, we have a very cordial approach to this matter. In a sense, it's just one line, and some may see it as making a mountain out of a molehill, and at the same time, it's highly symbolic for us here in the National Association of Black Veterans, and also the national organization. So we were thinking if we could arrange a meeting, you know, with command and one of other representative perhaps, to just meet with you, so we're not dealing in this sterile technological environment, and just maybe update certain things, so that by the time the meeting comes around December or January, that we have a good understanding and a good appreciation of where each other is coming from.
I think that could be arranged.
Yeah, I'm sure we can arrange some meeting with myself and the mayor.
Great.
Exactly, yes.
In the near future.
Terrific. Okay.
Excellent. We would be delighted. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. Greatly appreciate you weighing in this evening. We
Thank
turn
you.
now to Mr. Eric Sloan. For Mr. Sloan, I'm afraid I'm not reading concerns. So let me just invite you up. Please introduce yourself. And if you'd clarify for your 4 minutes, what you hope to speak about.
Eric Sloan. I live at 500 East Main Street, Emmitsburg. A couple of topics here. One of them is essentially code complaints, like your grass is too tall, so on and so forth. I have been the end of a lot of bogus ones. I have a bronze propeller that's been in my front yard since 1996. And once I got a letter saying, take the fan out of your yard, and I called up the then town manager, say, what fan? Went round and around for about 45 minutes. It ended up being like, if you want to come down here and point it out, bring the sheriffs with you, we can figure this out. He hung up, it died right there. Another one was a snake that chased somebody out of my grass in the front yard that was 18 inches high, and it's never been that high, and chased him down the sidewalk. Both these were never observed by anybody from the city. And according to the setup, I think they're supposed to observe the problems before they actually write the letter. So one of the things to cut down bogus complaints or complaints because you pissed me off and I'm going to use it to get back at you would be to have the people list their name, contact information at the top of the form. That way it can go back on it and say who did what, when, where, and how. On to the next lovely topic. Now, we've brought up speeding before, and if you look at the curb in front of my house, you can see where everything from small cars to 18-wheelers have rode that curb to get around vehicles that are pulling into the Dollar General. I've been out there in the morning and listened to the brakes on a semi when they locked up the trailer brakes, and they rode up against that curb because they didn't have enough room or time to stop. And thankfully there was enough room between the curb and the car that was sitting there to get into the Dollar General for them to go by. And it's not an if, it's going to be a when a vehicle coming down the road at 55 miles an hour takes out a car that's turning to get into the Dollar General. And there's bits and pieces of disc brakes that have been broken off from when they hit the curb, tire weights and everything else. I'm building up a little collection. I just throw it in my mailbox there. But and the other part of that is some sort of a passive speed setup. The state tells me they can't do it because it's not a school zone or an industrial zone because it is state road. The city doesn't have it. Now, the other option for that is the city to tell the state, put something out there, traffic monitor, anything. And as well as Creamery, where it comes on to 140, people do everything from rolling stops, which are illegal, to just going through it without stopping, period. And of the two accidents that were there, that since I've been here, that I remember, were both struck by a vehicle coming from the westbound lane. Yeah, when you roll out too far, if somebody's moving too fast, they're going to hit you. That's about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Okay, just so we add it to the record, Deputy Ahalt is still with us in the room. He's aware of these items, and Deputy, if you'd be mindful of this moving forward, we'd be grateful. Thank you, sir. Okay, we turn now to Mr. Buckheister regarding Welty Avenue parking on planning and zoning. Did I get that correct? I'm trying to decipher your
two separate issues.
Your notes. Okay.
Thank you, President O'Donnell. First, I'd like to congratulate Frank Davis and Amy Bowman Pollitt. Is that correct? Good to see both of you as part of our commissioners moving forward. I wanted to get a follow-up, Mr. O'Donnell, from last week's meeting. I left here with the impression that staff was going to move forward with painting lines in Welty Avenue for the parking. I limited my emails actually to one with my understanding of what I thought was proposed that night. Zach actually responded back to me and said, yeah, this is exactly what we're thinking. So it seemed to me there was a plan. My understanding was that, and I know staff's busy, I know everybody's busy. So I was under the impression it was going to get done before this meeting so that there would be, the residents could have some type of interaction. That's fine that it didn't, but we were going to decide tonight whether or not Mr. Ritt's motion last month to put it on the November meeting was going to be, one that was realistic or not. So since that didn't happen, we have really no feedback. And since I kind of agreed with TJ's recommendation that we wait, I'm now gonna ask that it either, I'd like to get direct feedback of when this is gonna happen, or I'd like to get it on the November meeting to be discussed by the residents in Welty.
Great. Thank you, sir. Let's follow up.
Commissioner O'Donnell, I
Yes.
can respond.
Sure.
We have the letters prepared for every resident on Welty Avenue. We did get a price from the contractor to add the parking spaces, stripe and number. We just do not have back from the contract when the work will start. Everybody's busy. So we're at the mercy of the contractor.
Okay,
So it's ready to go as soon as they tell me when.
So when we hear from the contractor,
Yes,
we'll move forward.
right. We will
Okay.
go out and post the letters on every door
Terrific.
with the notice of when, the fact that it's going to be striped, lined, numbered. Each place is going to get 2 numbered spots on the townhomes. And letting them know that it can be enforced by town code. So it's just waiting on the contractor now.
Terrific. Okay. So that wasn't shared with you before, however, it sounds like. No.
Mm-mm.
Okay. And that's a recent development that we've heard back from the contractor that they haven't been able to set a time. Is that accurate?
Just
Or
today.
they got a hold of you today.
So we got the price back mid last week.
Okay.
So I authorized it last week
Okay.
and we're just waiting to hear when they can do it.
Okay.
That's fine with me. My impression was that they were already working in the town, so it was going to be relatively short, but it sounds like that may not be the case. So we don't actually, since the contractor hasn't gotten back to her, we don't know if it's going to be 2 weeks or 4 weeks.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So-
Tomorrow, who knows? With the hangers. I'm hoping.
Right.
Okay.
So-
So let me go to part 2 on this. Commissioner.
And you
Ritz,
realize you've been running my time for at least a minute and a half now.
we're responding to your items.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Ritz. Do you intend to bring this back as an agenda item, or have you decided at this point for our November meeting?
I have not decided. If there's no need for an agenda item, we really shouldn't have that agenda item.
Understood. Okay. Okay, so those are parts of the answer that it sounded like you were asking for. So action is going to happen. We're waiting to hear back from the contractor regarding it becoming an agenda item. It is Mr. Ritz's discretion at the moment.
Okay. All right. So what's the avenue for giving us some type of concrete feedback for when it will happen? Can I get something back maybe from you guys, indicating when they've committed to do that?
I would imagine. Let's talk to staff. I believe so, yes. Ms. Willets.
Yes, as soon as I have a date, I will share that with Mr. Buckheister, excuse me. And then, as I said, every residence will have the letter posted on their door that will have the date and requiring everybody move their vehicles and such.
Okay. Would it be possible to contact the contractor tomorrow just to find out if they
I
can give a
Just sent Mr. Click an email asking him to follow up on a date.
Terrific. Okay.
I'm not trying to push. I just want to make sure that, when the couple residents I'm dealing with ask me, like
Sure.
right now, I'm looking like I don't have, any information. So, okay.
Great. All right. So we have facts in hand now. We don't have a date yet, but
Okay.
when a date is available, you'll be advised.
Okay.
Well,
That sounds great.
neighbors. Okay.
Okay.
Does that satisfy your
Yep.
questions? Okay.
Yep.
Great. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. We turn now to Mr. Edward Wantz regarding a hunting issue or hunting issues. Yes, sir. Welcome. If you would identify yourself and then the floor is yours for.
Yes, my name's Ed Wentz. I'm just questioning the issue on hunting. We're allowed to deer hunt up to January 31st, but the small game hunting was cut out of the hunting program as far as squirrels and mountain grouse and stuff. And I don't know why that was, but I was just wondering if we can reincorporate the small game with the hunting and just cut that date off with the deer season cut off at January 31st. So that gives your small game hunters their opportunity to hunt too. And that's kind of what my question was for tonight.
Okay. We'll turn to staff first.
If I recall correctly, and I'd have to go back through the minutes, I believe the dates were proposed to be changed to open up trail access for 7 days a week, more, offering more time for recreational use of the trails. And I think looking at the calendar, they cut small game off when hunting season ended to open access up. I'd have to go back through the meeting minutes, but this was something that came to the board and the board did approve the change. So I'd have to do some more research on it. I know
Okay.
something, it was something Miss Ray worked on, myself and her worked on.
And I'll jump in on the trail piece in a moment, but I'll let you continue.
No, that's all.
Okay, so there were many requests from trail users to have an extended season. At the time, if I recall correctly, staff contacted more than a few permit holders who had registered for hunting permits. And they heard from deer hunter, they heard from turkey hunter. I don't know if they heard from anybody from small game, but they made a significant outreach to contact, I thought, every permit holder at that time. And nobody came back in favor of
Yeah.
the small game or grouse seasons.
Yeah,
So,
that's
but
why
since then-
I didn't hear none of that, but I was just hoping to get back here to maybe incorporate the small game back into the program, but just cut that small game date off with the deer season of January 31st. And instead of the end of February when small game does go out, just make it official at the end of the deer season, January 31st. Then after 31st, no more small game hunting either.
So for clarification, they overlap in January, at the end of January?
Yeah, small game comes in like early October and it runs clear up to the end of February. But deer season starts at the beginning of September and runs to the end of January. So I was hoping maybe we can just get the small game back into the program, but cut it off at the date of the deer season, January 31st. That still frees up the whole month of February for the mountain bikers. Or riders or, you know what I'm saying? I
Yeah,
just,
I do.
you know, because I do small game hunt.
Sure.
And, you know,
We don't want to lose you, truly.
right. I mean, but, you know, I've got some, you know, won some nice guns here that I'd like to try for small, you know, but it's don't me no good right now. But, you know, as far as shooting the high powered rifles, I mean, the shotguns should be no different. I'm just trying to get that date at the end of January with the deer season. So they're running together. So, you know, somebody's up there deer hunting, there could be a small game hunter walking by squirrel hunting too. So, you know, I'm just trying to.
So I think this is reasonable. I mean, it's a board decision.
Right.
We would turn to staff to make this an agenda item.
Yeah, I'll go
propose it?
back and look
Okay.
I mean,
And
how it was written. I
this
can't
can
remember if
change.
it's written as an
Yeah.
ordinance or a policy. So
Yeah.
I'll have to
and
do
I
my
don't-
own research on it, but yeah, I don't see any reason if they're overlapping, it's not extending.
Yeah, because
any
like I say, the deer season runs from September through January 31st. Small games running from beginning of October, roughly to the end of February. But if I can just get that date, you know, I'd like to get that date cut off the end of January. That'd be great for small game hunters.
Sure.
So thank you for your time.
Sir, thank you for
Appreciate it.
coming in, and we have contact information for you, do we? So we
You
can
should.
follow up
I'm
with
I'm
you.
registered with the town with my permits.
Oh, very good. Yes, sure. Good.
So
Okay, so the
we should
permit's in
have
place.
Yep.
Okay,
Thank you.
Just real quick, thank you for being willing to compromise with that.
Sure.
That's makes
Well, it's unfair.
life a lot easier. Thanks.
Does anybody, Commissioner O'Donnell, do you remember when we did that? It'll be to find,
I believe last year was our first year that we had this modification,
okay.
And something tells me it was for a year.
and it was correct. It was a pilot.
I just forget the date off the top of my head.
All right, I'll look into it
Okay.
and,
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, sir. And I will contact you, or staff will contact you directly once we have something that we're going to work with in a meeting. So, you know, sure. Okay. All right. So at that point, we conclude the public comments as we have no more folks signed up. And then from there, we turn to administrative business. Mr. Mayor, we turn to you.
Okay, Proclamation Breast Cancer Awareness Month, October 2022. Whereas while considerable progress has been made in the fight against breast cancer per the American Cancer Society, about 287,850 new cases of invasive breast cancer will be diagnosed in women in 2022. And whereas this year, an estimated 43,250 women will die from breast cancer in the United States, And whereas an estimated 2,710 men will be diagnosed with invasive breast cancer in the United States, and approximately 530 men will die. Whereas 1 in 8 women will develop breast cancer in their lifetime. Whereas there are over 3.8 million breast cancer survivors in the United States. And whereas during the month, we reaffirm our commitment to support breast cancer research and to educate all citizens about risk factors, detection, and treatment. And whereas as we display pink ribbons and wear pink clothing to raise awareness, we also support those who courageously fight breast cancer and honor the lives of those to that disease. And whereas in this October 2022, we recognize breast cancer survivors, those battling the disease, their families, friends, and our tireless source of love and encouragement, and applaud the efforts of our medical profession and researchers working to find a cure for this deadly disease. Whereas Breast Cancer Awareness Month is an opportunity to unite all citizens in our community to prevent breast cancer deaths through increased education, regular screening. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Mayor and Board of Commissioners of the Town of Emmitsburg, Maryland do hereby proclaim this month, October 2022, as Breast Cancer Awareness Month, adopted this 3rd day of October 2022, to be signed by myself as mayor and Timothy O'Donnell as president. Mayor.
Is there a motion to accept the proclamation as presented? Okay, is there a second for Commissioner Sweeney's motion?
I'll second that.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries 4-0 with Commissioner Burns absent. We move now to just record that there are no items for consent agenda at this time. We turn to the treasurer's report. Would staff be willing to present that?
Sure.
Thank you.
This is the cash activity report as of September 27th, 2022. Cash balance September 1st was $9,144,628. We had deposits in the amount of $222,992, withdrawals in the amount of $300,897, which left an operating balance forward of $9,066,723. And the top checks are listed below. If you have any questions.
Yeah, just one, the historic walking tour,
Mhm.
road public relations. What is that?
Those are the wayside exhibits. So once they complete all the wayside exhibits, they're putting a brochure together that discuss that they will then publish, and everybody will be able to see where the waysides are, and it highlights the town and some of the events and businesses as such.
Okay, my only concern was if we're getting something printed, we have 2 businesses here in town that do printing, that, whenever we can support those businesses, I'd like to make sure
Yeah,
we do that.
as far as I know, it's not been printed. It's still in the draft
Okay.
form as of right now.
Thanks.
Okay, any other questions for staff related to the treasurer's report? Okay, hearing none, we move on. We turn to the Planning Commission report. Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Planning Commission did meet on September 26th. It's a busy night. The following occurred. We were presented an application for a zoning text amendment to allow for public or private shooting ranges in the industrial zone. After some lengthy discussion, the applicant withdrew his application in order to include more detail that would address some concerns from the Planning Commission, such as noise abatement, hours of operation, safety, etc. Due to that, agenda item 3 was removed this evening. Can't read my own handwriting. The applicant is scheduled to present his revised application to the Planning Commission on October 25th, to be followed by a public hearing and Board of Commissioner vote on November 7th. We conditionally approved the final forest conservation plan and final subdivision plat for lots 5, 6, and remainder for the Emmitsburg East Industrial Park 2. And we were requested by the Board of Appeals to weigh in our thoughts for a potential town-created zoning text amendment regarding fences and how they relate specifically to corner lots. Planning Commission agreed with the Board of Appeals opinion that a zoning text amendment would be the most sensible way to address this appeal. Revise the code now rather than hold multiple appeal meetings in the future. This will be presented to the Planning Commission and Board of Commissioners sometime in the near future. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for the commissioner / liaison? Yes. Okay, hearing none, we move forward. We turn to our first agenda item, the swearing in of new elected officials. Mr. Mayor, we turn to you, sir.
I'd ask Commissioner Davis if he'd step forward up here.
Mr. Davis, do you want to grab it for you? No? Okay.
Flag here, we got the emblem. Why don't we come over here?
We'll have it removed so it doesn't ruin your photo.
You affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States. I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of Maryland. Support the Constitution. Laws thereof. And I will do the best of my skill and judgment. Diligently and faithfully, without partiality and prejudice, execute the office. Wow. Where were we? Judgment, diligent, how long were it?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. Without prejudice, or partiality or prejudice.
Partiality and prejudice.
Execute the office of Commissioner. For the town of Emmitsburg. Or the Constitution. And laws. State of Maryland. Charter and code of the town of Emmitsburg. Congratulations, sir. Welcome aboard. Good to have you aboard. Thank you. We need you to sign. I use this pen right here. Sign it, and we'll give you a copy. Thank you, sir. Yes, bring it up. Yes, absolutely. I've got 8 people. Don't raise your right hand. Okay. If you raise your hand.
I, Amy Bowman,
Do affirm that I support the Constitution
do affirm that I will support the Constitution
of the United States.
of the United States,
And I will be faithful and bear true allegiance
and I will be faithful
to the state of Maryland.
to the state of Maryland,
Support the Constitution,
and support the Constitution
laws thereof.
and laws thereof,
And I will do my best,
and I will do my best,
my skill,
judgment,
diligence,
diligency,
faithfully, without partiality or prejudice,
without partiality or prejudice,
execute the office of Commissioner
execute the office of
of Emmitsburg.
the town
According to the Constitution,
according to the Constitution,
laws of the state,
laws of the state,
the charter and code of the town of Emmitsburg.
the charter and code of the town of Emmitsburg.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you so much.
I'm happy to sign right here, and then we'll give you a copy of this thing. Thank you very much.
Come on up. The seat is yours. Photograph, jacket, I'll get yours.
No,
Okay, I'm grabbing-
yeah, they're all good. I don't need a jacket. That's mine. Mine, we doing?
Yeah.
Doing pictures?
Mine?
Yeah, I'll leave it for-
Are we doing the picture? Are we gonna take a picture of all this stuff?
Yeah, that's what the president.
Are we doing some in the seats and then some stand like we normally do? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Where you want to be?
You're sitting there. Okay, can you move the placard?
That'll be good. We're gonna sit you right here. We're gonna have a little picture of all this.
Oh, that's
And,
good.
Frank, would you like to be seated?
Yeah, I don't want to sit where Clifford's name is. Where you want me to sit?
Right over here. We're gonna show it, come in a little tight here. Back. We're gonna get it here. We're gonna-
Yep.
Mark?
Perfect.
Good, good.
Sorry, I moved up. Aim in your-
They'll tell you how to open the door. It's just kind of- Or that, like, it's got your number on it. Term's over now that we've, don't you see?
Okay, so at this time, we now turn to our agenda item number 2. This will be for consideration, the mayor's recommendation for reorganization of the board. And we turn to the mayor for his presentation.
Okay, there we go. I'm going to pass these across to everybody and I've given consideration to time served and time to do different things and some of us will be doing older things and but my recommendations are that to have Timothy O'Donnell as president, Joseph Ritz III as vice president, Cliff Sweeney as treasurer, Joseph Ritz III, planning commissioner, Frank Davis, park commissioner, and Amy Bowman as citizens advisory committee liaison. Both of them are Joe would be a liaison too. Those are my recommendations.
Okay, any discussion from the board? Mr. Davis, yes, sir.
No, I'm ready to make a motion.
Any other discussion from the board? No?
Other than, thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the recommendation.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. Is there a motion to accept the recommendation as presented for reorganization?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second for Commissioner Davis's motion?
Second.
Thank you. Motion has been made by Commissioner Davis. It has been seconded by Commissioner Bowman Pollitt. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone against? The motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Okay, we move to agenda item number 3. For the record, it has been withdrawn by the applicant. So we turn now to agenda item number 4. Okay, this relates to the discussion of a possible water and sewer rate connection fee increase and options as a result of the recent study.
Yes, I do have the contractor on Zoom. The company did prepare a PowerPoint presentation, some historical. This has been something that myself and previous town manager has been alluding to for several years, that the need to look at your water and sewer rates was looming. I went back and did a little bit of investigation. The last water rate increase only applied to overages of 10,000 gallons and above. It was a 50% increase, and that only affected about 5 to 8% of your users. And that was back on May 6th of 2013. And then this last sewer rate increase, I believe, from what I could tell, was 2014/2015 as a result of the construction of the wastewater treatment plant. I will turn it over to, I believe, Mr. Maker, are you online?
Yes, good evening.
Okay, just let us know when you want to change the PowerPoint, if you'll introduce yourself to the board, and then we can get started.
Am I able to share my screen so I can control it?
I don't believe that we have that capability as of right now. Yeah, we can't do that. So you'll just have to let us know. I do have the PowerPoint presentation up that you sent me that we went over at the end of last week.
You see that?
Yeah, we've got the front page up.
You see it change?
No,
Oh, okay, all right, let me go back. I attempted it.
I think he thinks he can change on his end.
no, yeah, you can't control the PowerPoint on your end. We don't have that capability.
Okay, no problem. I'll give you a heads up. Yeah, good evening, board. My name is Mike Maker. I am a principal with NewGen. I'm in our Annapolis office. So I heard you mention Navy beat Army. I agree with that. So I am the deputy director of our water practice, and I've been doing this for about 19 years. And I also want to congratulate the new board members. It's not an easy topic to take on the first night. So can we go to the next slide, please? So some guiding principles of the study and objectives. So the water and sewer enterprise funds should be financially self-supporting. One should not borrow from the other, and ideally they should not borrow from the general fund. They should be self-supporting through user fees. The utilities should maintain reserves to provide for contingencies on planned expenses. Water and sewer rates should be kept as low as possible over time. You'll see we've italicized over time there because you can defer maintenance, not increase rates, and then keep your rates really low, but then at some point you're going to have a main break or something catastrophic is going to happen. You're going to have to have a really large increase. So ideally, small incremental increases over time is ideal. Objectives to ensure rates are stable through sound financial management and system maintenance. We do that by reviewing the funds and then preparing a long-term financial plan. Next slide. So some of the factors that affect water and sewer charges and rates. So your operating maintenance expenses, this is your salaries, your benefits, things like that, materials. For the modeling purposes, we have a 5% increase for labor expenses after discussion with staff. And then we have just a 2.5% escalation rate for all our expenses. Capital improvement plans is probably one of the largest impacts on charges and rates. So that's going to be your investment in treatment, distribution, collection systems. And that could either be cash funded straight from rates, or it can be debt funded or grant funded, or several different funding mechanisms. And we account for that in the model. Anything that's going to be debt funded, we then calculate that new debt. We would add that onto any existing debt. So that brings me to the next one, the debt service. So any existing debt you have right now, that the principal and interest payments, we've included those in the model. And then, as I mentioned, any capital projects you plan on debt funding, be added to that debt service. Customer changes, and then water usage and sewage generation. So we have these separate because you may be adding customers, a handful here and there, but they're actually using less water, we're finding, on a per capita basis. So we track those separately. Just being conservative here, based on historical trends, we're anticipating no additional growth in customers or usage. If you do get any, then that certainly helps. But right now, at least based on historical trends of both of those, we're not seeing that. And then miscellaneous revenue, so that's anything other than rates and charges. So that's interest income, miscellaneous fees, antenna revenue, things like that. Again, we're being conservative here and assuming no growth in that. And then a reserve target, we're recommending a minimum operating balance of 90 days of operating expenses. So that's roughly 25% of your O&M expenses kept on a rainy day fund, an operating balance. Next slide. So the relationship between user rates and connection fees, as you know, user rates are the rates and charges you pay frequently, and the connection fees are one-time connections to the system. So this one is a little dynamic. So I'm gonna be going, if you hit the next, it's gonna show different boxes up here. So first we start with the operating expenses. Click again. And then again. So operating expenses have to be paid through user rates. And then capital expenses can either be system maintenance, so non-growth related, or system expansion or growth related. Those that are non-growth can be paid through cash or debt and then come from user rates. And those that expand the system or increase capacity can also be cash or debt funded and should ideally be collected from connection fees. And then you'll see this caveat here at the bottom. So if connection fees are set at less than costs, or anticipated growth does not occur, then existing customers will have to make up that difference from higher user rates. And hit it one more time, you'll see this dotted line pointing there. Next slide. So this just shows the revenue requirements. As I mentioned before, your operating maintenance expenses are at the bottom there. That's your salaries, benefits, materials, contractors, things like that. Your outstanding debt on top of that, so that's any existing obligations you have for principal and interest payments. Then any capital improvement projects, and again, those can either be cash or debt funded, or if you're lucky, grant funded. And then any contributions to reserves. So we stack all those up, and that's the revenue required to be collected from customers. So it's basically the cost of the system. We add all that up, we subtract the miscellaneous revenues, and then we have our net revenue requirement. Next slide. So first we'll look at water just over the next 5 years. So this is fiscal years 23 through 27. Operating expenses about 700,000 per year. It's going up to about 800,000. Current debt service, about 100,000 there for water debt service currently on the books. So that's not any new debt service. We're not anticipating any cash funding in capital projects, but we are anticipating bond funding or debt funding some of those projects, and that would be the new debt service from that next line. I mentioned that before, if your growth did not occur as anticipated, or if your growth expenses exceed your growth revenue, you'd have a shortfall. We're not showing a shortfall because we're not showing any growth related expenses. And then so that total revenue requirement is about 800,000 in fiscal year 23. Take out any miscellaneous revenues, so that lowers that requirement by 100,000. So we have 700,000 required to be collected in 23. You can see that increasing to about 1.3 by the 5th year. Next slide. Then switching over to sewer. So here we have about 800,000 in operating expenses, increasing to about $1 million by 2027. Current debt service about 200,000. Cash funded capital projects. So there is a capital project here. I think it's a Creamery Road pump station anticipated in 23 and 24. That would come directly from rates. And then new debt service about 100,000 each year starting in 24. Again, no connection fee shortfall. And then we add up all those expenses. You need about 1.6 in fiscal year 23. And it actually decreases to 1.3 because you had those two cash funded projects in 23 and 24. Subtract the miscellaneous revenue, and then the final need about that 1.4 million in 23, and actually decreasing to 1.2. Next slide. So this is a comparison of the revenue requirements now in graphical form, those bars at the bottom, and comparing that with the revenue. So the blue bar at the bottom, you see those, the current year 2022, and then the 5-year plan. That is your operating expenses in blue. And then we add on top of that the current debt service in red, new debt service in purple. And then we compare that with the current revenue. So that light blue line that's kind of going horizontally across the screen, since it is lower than the height of the bars, that means you're running a shortfall. And as you can see, it's not even covering the operating expenses. So just the fixed costs you have, operating expenses, debt service, you've been ignoring new debt service or capital projects. You can see that current revenue is not covering those. And then at that, you'll see that bottom line, which is a pretty scary headline. It says proposed revenue reflects, that's that dark blue line that slopes up to the right and then flattens out. This would be a increase halfway through the fiscal year. So we're currently in fiscal year 23. So halfway through would be January 1st is when we anticipate increasing these or implementing the rates. So you're only going to get about a half year of the new revenue. So the proposed revenue reflects 150% increase in rates in 1 year, and then 3% each year after that. but you're only going to realize about a half of that revenue in that first year. Now, we had to make it this high because, as you mentioned before, water does not currently have a cash balance. It's anticipated to be $0. So there is no cushion there to absorb any of the increases. So we need to make sure we cover that first year of expenses with first year of revenue. If you go to the next slide. This is, I mentioned that fund balance. So if we look at FY 2022, you can see there is no blue bar there, blue bar equaling the ending operating cash balance. So currently anticipating there is no cash balance right now. And the target is that 90 days, the red line. So ideally, we've set this so that we meet that 90 days at the end of 5 years. You can see we kind of gradually build up that cash balance, and then we actually use a little bit of it in the later years so that by the end of FY 2027, we've met that 90 days. Next slide. For sewer, again, comparing the revenue requirements, the colored bars, to the revenue with the lines. So here the situation is not quite as dire. You can see you're actually covering your expenses in 2022. But as we add that cash funding capital project, that Creamery Road project in green, you can now see the expenses exceed the revenues in 23 and 24. And then those cash projects actually go away, but then the new debt service and the current debt service exceed that revenue. So here, all we're suggesting here or recommending is just a 3% increase, an inflationary increase. And you'll see on the next slides, because we actually have a cash balance for sewer. So we're able to absorb some of those deficits. So here you can see the blue bars being the ending cash balance for sewer. So you've actually got over $4 million in sewer. But unfortunately, if we're not commingling water and sewer, then water is not able to use any of these funds. This is strictly for sewer projects and sewer customers. You can see you're meeting your cash target. And so we're actually able to use some of this cash balance and to help with some of the increases. Next slide. So now we're going to talk about the current charges and fees. So these are the current charges and fees you have in place. These are charged quarterly. So water charges on the left side, you have quarterly minimum charges. So everyone gets 6,000 gallons regardless of how much you use. And the charge varies by meter size. So if you're a 3/4 inch, probably 85 to 95% of your customer base is residential. So they're probably about just using that 3/4 inch and just paying $35. Then larger commercial or industrial customers would have these larger meter sizes. Then you have a volume charge. So if you use beyond the 6,000 gallons per quarter, you would pay more per 1,000 gallons as you go through the different tiers. And then the sewer charges is the same structure. So again, pay by meter size, and then you have a volume charge that varies. Next slide. So we first map the current rate design, and by doing that, everybody pays the same increase since everybody's rates goes up the same. And then we looked at an alternative. So for water and sewer, both current and alternatives are same. So for the alternative we looked at is varying those minimum charges. So those charges that vary by meter size. This AWWA, that stands for American Water Works Association. And that's kind of the industry standard in the water and sewer industry. And so they have these different meter equivalent bases. So it's based on how much water you can actually pull through a meter, through a larger meter as compared to a base meter. So it's based on gallons per minute. So for example, maybe a 1 inch can pull 5 times as much water as a 3/4 inch. So therefore you can charge 5 times more for a 1 inch because it costs more to maintain that meter. And they can also turn on their tap and pull a lot higher demand, in which you need to have to build your system to handle that demand. Then the 6-tier overage rates, that's the volumetric rates that vary. We're just slightly revising those multiples so they're more consistent, both for water and sewer. And then we've added a charge for an 8-inch and a 10-inch meter sizes because those currently aren't on the books. And that note at the bottom mentions both of those bring in the same amount of revenue. So this is what the projected water rates would look like for the current rate design. Again, you can see those current rates in the second column and then the projections going forward. You can see those large increases in FY 2023 for water, and then just the 3% increases after that. In the next slide. And then for sewer, same thing here. The increases aren't quite as high, just 3% increase every year for all rates and charges. So that's under the current rate design. And then if we look at the alternative rate designs, the next slide. So for water here, you can see the current charges in the second column. As I mentioned, you don't currently have an 8 and 10-inch charge, so we've added those. And then you can see here now we're using those American Water Works Association equivalents. So the whereas, for example, the 1 inch under your current is only $10 higher than $35 3/4 inch. It is now a higher multiple in 2023, 2024, and so on, as it now ties to those industry standard equivalents. And then the same thing on those overage rates, the tiers at the bottom. Those are also revised multiples. Next slide. And then here sewer, again, just keeping the same structure as the water rate design, but just seeing a much smaller increase, only a 3% revenue increases here. Next slide. So we always say customers don't really care what their rates are. They want to know what their bill is going to be. So here we have 3 typical customers, residential customers. So these are all customers with 3/4 inch meters. We have a small customer, so that's about 25th percentile of all usage customers. A median customer, so that's 8,000 gallons. So roughly half of your customer base, residential customer base, uses less than 8,000, and the other half uses over 8,000. So we use that as the median usage amount. And then a fairly large residential customer, they would use about 19,000 gallons per quarter. So if we focus on the median user in the middle, the 8,000 gallons, their current bill is about $40 for water, about $118 for sewer, so about $158. Under the current rate design, that bill would go up to about $99 for water. So you see that big jump from the current for water. Sewer would just go up 121. Your combined bill is going from 158 to 221. And then under the alternative design, it actually stays the same because of the tiers are still the same for that first tier. And then the bill increases, you can see in those far 2 columns, would be about a $63 increase per quarter. And then next slide. And then comparing you to some of the surrounding jurisdictions, surrounding utilities. So in blue is water, in green is sewer, and then there's a number on the far right, that's the total bill. This is a quarterly bill. Again, this is for that 8,000 gallon customer, that median customer. So you can see you're currently 3rd lowest of those we've surveyed. And if you went to that large water increase, you'd be about middle of the pack. So still not the lowest, not the highest, we'd be about the middle. And I think this just proves that rate increases have been needed for some time now. And then next slide. So turning to connection fees, again, these are the one-time charges. Existing customers don't pay these. These are just new customers who are, want to come to the town and build or provide a new facility. These offset the capital costs of the backbone capacity in the system, so large mains, interceptors, pumping stations, treatment facilities. The way it's calculated, there's 3 ways. You can have historical cost of capacity, so that's looking at the average cost based on historical buy-in. The future cost of capacity, so that's any new projects and how much capacity they're adding, and then just an average of the both of those. So we looked at these 3 different methods. You don't actually have any future cost of capacity. There's no projects that are adding growth or capacity. So it's really coming down to historical cost capacity. And we would suggest that your current fees are adequate right now. So your current fee of $8,200 per connection for water and $8,000 for sewer. We'd recommend maintaining those. Next slide. So our recommendations to adopt the recommended water and sewer rates for FY23 to FY27. And I should state that's the alternative rate design as the recommended. Maintain your current connection fees. Review your charges and fees on an annual basis. So we've built a financial model that will be the property of the town. So staff will receive some training on how to use that. They can go in and put actual numbers over the budget once they have them and kind of see where the numbers fall. Are they staying the course? And then you really don't need a full cost of service or rate study, maybe every 3 to 5 years. You don't need to do that every year, but as long as you're using the model and kind of just a little checkup every year, see how things are working. So with that, any questions? If you want, I also have an alternative scenario. I don't know if you want to go into that now or if you want to wait. That's just for the water. If we didn't do it as a one-time and you somehow were able to subsidize the water, you could do it over multiple years. Still hefty increases, but it wouldn't be at large one time.
So for clarity's sake, board, do we want to ask questions now from what we have just seen, or do we want to press on to the water alternative scenario? Any druthers, any preference? Okay, why don't we go ahead and press on then, please? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Sweeney.
We adjusted the sewer rates twice, correct? We did them in two.
You did two
installments.
rate increases. I believe it was 2012 and 2015.
It was 50%, right?
I don't have the numbers off my head, but they were the rates due to the construction of the
New
sewer
plant.
plant. Yes.
So just to bring the water up to what we need it to be to cover the new water plant and all that other stuff.
To actually just to cover day-to-day operating expenses plus any improvement projects, infrastructure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you can go ahead and proceed with the alternative.
Okay, sure. So this scenario, we just, as I mentioned before, this allows the cash balance to go negative. I think it goes negative about 200,000 in the first year, just in order to mitigate that one-time large increase in 2023. And so I'll just show you what the numbers look like on the next slide. So again, as I showed before, this is the graph comparing the current costs to proposed revenues. So here, instead of that, I think it was 150% increase in one time in 1 year. Now it would actually be about a 44% increase. We'd have to do it 3 years in a row. So it's still a hefty increase, but it's a lot less than that one time. You can go to the next slide. So here you can see, I didn't show the actual balance go negative, but you can see that it's not positive in 22, 23, or 24. So it wouldn't actually reach a positive cash balance until 25. So you would have to somehow subsidize the water fund, either with general fund or borrow from another fund, and then pay those back over time. Next slide. So this is what the rate increases would look like with those 44% increases over time. So go from 35 for that minimum charge to 50 to 72 to 104. And the same thing on the rates. Next slide. And then the same thing for the alternative rate design. So still keeping the same structures as before, just with the different increases. And then next slide. And so here again is that chart showing small user, medium user, large user. Again, if we focus on that middle one, the median user, so about half your customers, you see that $39.80 water bill currently would go to 57. And then it would go, this is only for 2023, so this isn't actually showing the impact of 24 and 25. Then the 117 sewer, that stays the same for the 121. So you're going from 157 to 178. So instead of that $60 increase in 1 year, it's now a $21 increase. But as this doesn't show, 24 would probably see a similar increase, and then 25 would see a similar increase. I think that's it.
Any questions or comments from the board or mayor? No? Okay. Staff, any thoughts? Mr. Tabler, Ms. Willetts?
So the purpose of this meeting was to give you an idea of where we are and where we need to go. The water fund has been at a loss for many years now. Cole can explain how we've continued to maintain and essentially pay the bills with the water fund. So basically you have two options. You do a one-time rate increase and then continue to increase 3%. My recommendation would to change the code where you automatically increase 3% each year so that we can continue to maintain and not fall behind like we did. Or you can spread it out over the next 3 fiscal years, knowing that you will still remain, your water fund will still remain in the negative, and you won't see the 90 days of surplus until fiscal year 25. Purpose of this meeting was get a feel for the direction that the board wanted to go in. The next meeting in November would be a public hearing opened up to public comment, advertised in the paper, with the goal of voting on the rates in December to where they would go effect January 1. And then your user would see the effects of that on their March 30th water bill. Cole, do you want to explain a little bit how the water fund's been funded?
One of the things with the water fund is we're to the point where the cash balances are to the point where as we go forward, we're in a position where we'll start having to borrow cash from the other funds, either the general fund or the sewer fund. And like Kathy said, the goal is to keep the funds separate and self-sustaining. Some of what's brought this on is the projects that the town needs to start doing and paying for that we haven't had the last 10 years. So we have to have the funding for those. With the cash balances, as we've passed the different budgets from year to year, typically in the water budgets that are passed, there's been a slight loss each year. And then in the sewer, there's that for the budgets that have been passed, there's been a slight, what you'd call like a slight profit. And that's just accelerated the last couple years. For fiscal year 23, the budget that we passed for this current fiscal year in the water fund, there's a loss of 173,000. So with the issues that the town's dealing with, it's come to a head and we have to start thinking about how things will be addressed.
And as you know, we don't, and it's recommended to not borrow from sewer fund or the general fund. It's usually a black mark on your audit for one, and two, any monies that are borrowed from either fund have to be paid back, and with no surplus in water, when is the town going to be able to pay back either the sewer or the general fund for borrowed monies? Obviously, we don't want to be in that position. And Cole's right, we were able to essentially limp by because we were not doing much needed infrastructure projects. I think we were in a good place for many, many years. However, you know, times come where the improvements have to be made. We've got the deteriorating water lines, the need for clarifier and other infrastructure projects. So,
and one thing as we go forward from year to year and with the different budgets that are passed, especially in the water fund, we have from year to year a pretty consistent amount of revenue that comes in from the utility charges for the water rates. One of the things year to year that's inconsistent would be the tap fees that you collect on new buildings. If those come in, I know the last couple years we've had some activity that's helped us actually, you know, level and almost break even in the water fund. But if those aren't consistent as we go through future years, those will play out to where it would be a negative factor in the water fund.
Mr. Ritz.
I guess two things. One, to touch on what you just said, Mr. Taylor, I was thinking maybe, I know the recommendation was not to make any changes to our tap fees for connection fees for water and sewer. Part of me was thinking too, maybe we might want to consider, when I say new development, I mean from the ground up new development, a different tiered system. It wouldn't be the same dollar amount for, let's say, if somebody took like converted something into like a garage into 2 apartments, a garage that had running water to it, and then they would have to pay for a water and sewer tap. In my mind, that connection fee should be less than putting in brand new homes. Just an idea. Also, I thought that one of those goals of this study was to look at that 6,000. Sorry, I don't know why my mic's all weird here. $6,000, 6,000 gallon minimum use. I thought we were gonna look at actual usage potentially.
so we actually, and Mr. Maker can correct me if I'm wrong. I think we decided to go along with the American Water Works Association's recommended, and that's the 6,000 gallons is what their model shows and what their recommended is. And so that's why we stayed with the 6,000.
I know we have some people in town that at least at one point, I don't know if that still holds true, their actual usage was less than that. And they did complain. And they were basically told that they're not meeting Maryland state hygiene requirements.
It was under the previous.
I'm not
town
pointing any
manager.
fingers, but yes, yes.
yeah, it was
Thanks
not
for
me.
clarifying that. But, I can understand their concern. Like, we're only using this much. Why are we not paying for just this much?
Because the state requires us to provide up to the 6,000 gallons, at the 250 gallons per day. I believe that's where the recommendation comes from for the 6,000.
So that's an industry standard.
Right.
It's an industry standard, but it's not a Maryland law.
I would have to defer to the contractor or to look into it further. I think the people that do use under 6,000, it's not as many people. I am one of them with a 2-person household. I'm consistently under 6,000. I understand people's concern, but also knowing that we are required to provide that amount of water to them if they would choose to use it. I think, and Mr. Maker, do you have any input on this?
Yeah, I have a few comments.
Thank you.
So the minimum charge is a form of fixed revenue, and about 80% of your costs are fixed. So other than electricity and chemicals, everything is pretty much fixed. You still have to pay your debt service, you have to pay your salaries. That's not something you can turn off, depending on usage. A lot of places are moving to a higher percentage of fixed revenue. So we have some clients who are trying to get to 50% of their revenue coming from fixed charges and then 50% from variable. If you were to lower that 6,000, that would give you less fixed revenue. Cole certainly wouldn't like that as the person who's going to have to handle where that revenue is going to have to come from. So our places are actually moving the other way. They're trying to get more from fixed charges. So I guess that's one reason. It's not uncommon. A lot of places have minimum charges. A lot of places have inclining. If you went to 100% usage base, I think you would probably see those rates would have to go a lot higher because now you'd be getting less of that fixed revenue. So the usage tiers would go up a lot higher. And then if you had a really wet season, people aren't using water to irrigate lawns and things like that, you'd probably see a hefty loss in revenue. So you are seeing utilities kind of go the other direction and create more fixed. And I think I looked at the usage analysis. I think about 40% of your usage probably falls below the 6,000, so 0 to 6,000. And then the remainder is coming above that. I think, as I mentioned, that median user is about 8,000. So they're just above the 6,000 and right in tier 1. But that minimum user, they are certainly within that 6,000.
Thanks for clarifying. I guess it was a misunderstanding on my part. I thought that was part of the scope of this study. And that would be part of the presentation this evening too, to show that, hey, if we didn't continue to use this model, here's what would happen.
Right. So yeah, you are correct. We had initially discussed looking at different variables. We had, Cole and I had originally met with, and I can't remember her name, from a nonprofit who had brought up the idea of changing your minimums. But after it was explained to us by Mr. Maker that it just wasn't feasible, and the way that he explains it is the reason why, because of the fixed costs. But you are correct. We did initially talk about that.
Any other questions, Mr. Davis? Mr. Davis, Mr. Ritz, pardon me.
No, not at this time. Thanks.
Okay, sure. Mr. Davis, do you have any questions?
No, I'm good. We're going to just have time to digest.
Yep. Right. Yep. Okay. Mr. Sweeney?
No, I don't know.
No? Okay. All right. Staff, just for one piece of clarification, current projects underway or in the immediate future include water line repair and replacement, the pumping station, complete rebuild, the water clarifier, and do we have another major project coming on, like regarding infrastructure replacement?
So yeah, we have on the books, I believe we have a 5-year plan right now. So as you listed, the water clarifier is in progress. The pump station is in progress. We are just waiting on notification from MDE for the North Seaton water line and the DePaul Street water line. As part of the preliminary engineering and environmental report on those two water lines, it was recommended for a 10 or 12-inch water line coming down the mountain. And that project was estimated at about $9 million. That will probably be forthcoming in the near future. What else did I have? West, and then it looks like 2027, we're looking at a West Main Street water line. We're also looking at the Waynesboro Pike water line. I'm reading here, on the sewer side, the pump station is the only major project. We'll continue with the sewer relining, the inflow and infiltration projects. And then we have some in-house chem scan upgrades and pump upgrades for the sewer, but the major project for sewer will be the pump station. The Emmett Gardens water treatment plant, we actually have a meeting with the contractor that did the original design in 2012. I believe we have that meeting on Wednesday or Thursday to kind of review what the plan was then and look at costs for developing a new design and what costs might be for that project.
Okay, so we have some hefty expenses on both sides, we'll say in water and in sewer like in the near future.
Correct.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you.
And as we did discuss, and I'll just throw this in there, as you know, we received a lot of funding over the years from USDA. This was partially driven by USDA's inability to provide any additional funding to the town on the water side because the rates were so low that with our rates so low, we could not pay back. And they're looking at our books, we could not afford to pay back any loans, and we weren't grant eligible either. Mhm. I do have one question about this. To hold the public hearing, I was kind of hoping to get a direction of what the board wanted to go in for these water rates. We can refashion it I'll get with the town attorney on how we can still hold the public hearing and advertise for it without having the proposed rates. I just won't have the exact agenda title at the end of the meeting for you.
So regarding direction, do you need a motion from the board to direct staff to investigate? What are we looking for? The potential rate? Is that
So what I was looking for, and I get it, and it's perfectly fine. I don't need it tonight. We can still have our meeting in November and hold it won't be a public hearing, but it will be more of a discussion item as more than just a presentation of if we were looking at a 3-year plan or an all-in kind of all year, 1-year rate increase. But I can certainly wait till November to get into that. But I would like come November's meeting direction so we can get the ordinance and get it advertised and so we can get it in place by January.
Okay, go ahead.
You need to know if we need 150%.
I don't need it tonight. It'll be fine. No, it'll be fine.
I'm just throwing it out there that although the 150% might be sticker shock, if we proceed that route, the 3-year increase to me sounds like it's pretty much off the table because we're not looking to rob Peter to pay Paul. We can't borrow
Right.
against something else to.
Right, it's not in our best interest in the
Yeah.
long run or short run in this case. So will we not have a public hearing at all in this process, or do we?
No, we
prefer
will
that till
definitely, you have
December?
to have a public hearing. It's required per the code when you make any changes to your water and sewer utility rates. It just will be when the presentation of the ordinance is.
Just want to make sure that was.
Absolutely.
Part of it.
And obviously, even without a public hearing, the public can come in and make comment during the meeting.
Okay. Okay, so do you need a specific direction from us at this time, or we'll wait till the agenda gets presented for the November meeting?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, great. All right. Board, at this time, I'm suggesting we move to agenda item number 5. Are we okay with that?
Yeah.
We have consensus on that, go to 5. Okay, so let's do that. So we turn now to page 29 and 40 on the agenda. Mr. Michler, is that the name? Did I get that correct?
Mr. Maker,
Mr. Maker, thank you for your input, sir. Greatly appreciate
Thank
you
you.
being with us tonight.
I will be back in touch probably tomorrow.
All right, no problem.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we now turn to agenda item number 5 for consideration approval of a planning consultant contract, and staff will be presenting.
Thank you. So at the direction of the Board of Commissioners from a July meeting, the mayor and I met with Mr. Jakubiec, who is a planning consultant who worked for the town previously. He's also currently doing work with the town of Thurmont and highly recommended from the town of Thurmont. And our town attorney, Ms. Powell, has also worked with him and was recommended. The mayor and I had a meeting with him, and as well as the mayor took him around town and showed him the improvements that have been going on in the town. Basically, this contract, it's an on-call agreement. He will provide on-call town planning and zoning services, basically to advise and assist in town planning zoning functions, but particularly in larger project areas of annexation, development project review, if necessary, development code amendments, land use, and other studies, or as requested, the consultant would report to me, the town manager. The term of the contract would be effective tomorrow if this is approved by the board. It shall end on June 30th of 2023. It's a 9-month period. It can be renewed and extended for another year if monies are included in the budget. Contract can be terminated without cause, 30 written days by either the town or the contractor. The compensation is billed at $205 per hour, with approximately 16 hours a month on average each month. Some months could be more, some months could be less, depending on the town's need for services. That comes up to $3,280 a month. For the 9 months, it would be $29,520. If this contract is approved, this was not included in the budget, so that the board would either have to transfer monies from Fund 2 to Fund 1, which would be brought to the next town meeting, or the board could elect, as we do budget transfers after the audit in January of 2023. The reimbursements, billing for travel time should be limited to 1.5 hours. Reimbursements, it'd be reimbursed for mileage, postage, delivery, copying, printing, and that would be a separate bill. Ms. Powell has reviewed the contract and has kind of signed off on it that it's a good contract, legal contract. And that's all I have.
Any questions or comments from staff? Mr. Ritz, yes, sir.
I guess, is that everybody okay if I start first?
Sure.
Okay. Let's go right to the money. That's my favorite one. So we're estimating approximately 16 hours a month on average,
On average,
but that could fluctuate.
yes.
Is there something prohibiting us from setting a monthly ceiling? Or can't we do that?
We could. My concern with, I guess my only, I'm not even necessarily concerned. If it's a major project and we're going to cut him off at 16 hours, and if that means he's not able to come to a meeting or prepare a report, cutting off the hours, I think might, I understand it's a lot of money.
I had an or to this, or would it be like, hours not to exceed X within 1 full calendar year?
I mean, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, you took the initial contract is for 9 months. So,
So yeah, we're looking at basically just shy of $30,000.
yeah,
that
for
first
9
year.
months, you're looking at $29,520.
And then roughly 40 after that.
Yeah, it would be $39,360 for a full year if you do an average of 16 hours a month,
And give,
plus any additional, I'm sorry, plus
good.
additional mileage and any other costs.
yeah, I was not even counting all that in,
Right.
all that in. And then, everything else, inflationary rates and whatnot. Do we have any idea what his percent increase would be each year?
It does not list that in here. Probably since it's only 9 months.
I only have one more question at this time. It's actually a multi-part question, but I guess, from someone looking at this from the outside, individuals that might be here tonight, individuals that will tune in potentially on YouTube might be asking, we already have a town planner. Don't they do all this? My understanding is he's pretty stretched thin right now, perhaps all his duties. So the intent here is to have the consultant deal mostly with planning areas like annexation, I think you stated. Things like that, instead of I know that our town planner currently devotes a lot of his time to MS4 or code enforcement, things like that. So this consultant, would they also be doing that, or would it just strictly be more of the planning?
My vision is my personal vision is simply for planning. And I think if we look at one large project in particular that is on the horizon, our Fairleigh Farm Workshop, the development project, that's a massive development projected to come to the town of Emmitsburg. Nothing that I've seen or our current planner has seen. And I think a consultant has experience to look at, we need to put a good package together that benefits the town with this development coming in, and might be able to give some insight into that myself or the planner may not know. So that experience, I think, could be beneficial to the town. And any larger projects that would come forth. We do have a comp plan that starts in 2025. However, we will start working on that probably the beginning of 2024. But you're correct. I mean, the town planner spends a considerable amount of time on MS4 and has a lot of projects on his plate. I think, this consultant with this larger project could be beneficial.
That was the other part of my question, though, Mr. President. I'll be finished then. With that workshop coming up, obviously, we don't have all the details for that yet. You're still waiting to hear.
Correct.
So with that being on the 24th, assuming that you get maybe, I don't know how much, no, let's just say they give you all that information like a week prior. It's a quick turnaround. I do realize that. So even having the consultant on board at that point might not be overly useful for that workshop night, but then, after that, as things progress,
No, I understand what you're saying. The only benefit that I would see was that you would have him here on the ground running. But yeah, I mean, I think the comments from the board are due back to me on the 14th of October. And hopefully we'll have a turnaround with an agenda and some other information the following week.
I'm going to interrupt for a second. For clarification for folks who are here and in the audience, you're seeking specifically what from the board on the 14th? So we're all on the same page.
I believe the email the mayor sent to each individual commissioner asking for their priority list, kind of wish list for the town related to this Fairleigh Farm.
Okay,
project.
The potential annexation.
Correct.
Okay.
Thanks. Did that go out tonight? Did that go out this evening before the meeting? Okay.
If not, it'll be forthcoming tomorrow.
I might have put it in the wrong folder. I apologize. I try to organize them. Okay,
One thing I would add, I think this is an enhancement to what our planner does. Our planner does an outstanding job on project development and any projects that have been brought forth. I think this is just an enhancement that could potentially benefit the town.
I'm finished.
Okay,
Thanks.
Mr. Davis, did you have something? Because I thought you were,
No, I was just looking for that email, but
okay.
I'm good with trying this for 9 months to see and then adjust after that. I know we need help.
Mr. Sweeney.
We
Thank you,
used,
sir.
we used to have an extra person on that we had on our budget. Did we ever keep that in the budget?
No,
Thought we kept, we were keeping it for a little bit in case we did have.
Right.
no, we
also-
were with some decreased revenues, the general fund, we had to cut it.
We also we got some money from the county or from somewhere, federal county for the planner to hire an extra consultant in case we need one. We used to get that from somewhere. I remember when we first added the extra person on.
I'm not aware of any funding from the county. I'm not, I can look into it, but I'm not aware of any. Probably not, since we already have a full-time planner.
Do you remember what the salary was for the other person we had to help the planner?
Mr. Muir,
Was it over the 30,000?
well, he started out part-time and then went to full-time. So he probably, when he left, was probably mid-40s, would be my guess.
Okay.
The only
Yeah,
thing,
Okay.
go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. Clear it up.
Since you listed 16 hours a month on average, was there a way that you came up with that number as far as looking at the meetings and then preparation time?
No, that was, it basically came out of discussion with, Mr. Jakubiec and as well as the town of Thurmont, kind of asking them how many hours they, utilize their consultant. There wasn't anything concrete with the 16 hours. It was more of our best estimate.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll throw in, before I sat on the board, I was a member of the Planning and Zoning Committee, and I also ultimately was the president of that committee when we were working on our comprehensive plan update. And the reason we had to work on the comprehensive plan update was because it had fallen into disrepair after a really good comprehensive plan early on. And if Ms. Walbrecker were here, she'd talk about their process. So they gave us a good document to work with, but between that point in time and when this update had to occur, the plan wasn't compliant with the state standards. Mr. Jakubiec was the consultant we used at that time, and I found him an excellent resource. And I found him a very strong advocate for our community. The product that came forward in that update was used by the state, if I'm not mistaken, as a model to show other communities how they can move forward to do their comprehensive plan update. So I'll say it appears expensive, but he is a real value added component to our planning staff. I think having him working in conjunction with Mr. Golden will enhance Mr. Golden's efficiency. I think we'll gain a real benefit from it. I felt Mr. Jakubiec worked effectively with staff. The document later, the comprehensive plan document, was something that the team was very proud of that came forward because it was far more relevant to what the town was looking forward to becoming. And as you look at where we are now in relationship to that comprehensive plan, we've achieved many of those things. So there's a reality base and a real yardstick that's measurable if you assess what we've set out to do and what we've done. So I think he quantified very well what we wanted to see for the town as we moved forward. Another piece is I found him to be very professional. He worked with a very diverse user group. Every business in town had time with him, it seemed, and not everyone agreed with him, but everyone walked away going, they felt they had been listened to. Okay, but again, it was in a professional environment and it was really well done. I also felt that the product he came forward with was timely. If he said something was going to happen at a set time, it did occur. So I feel like from my experience working with him at that level at that time, I'm very comfortable with recommending him in this contract. So that's just where I'm coming from. Staff, do you need direction from us at this time?
So the
Or vote?
one piece I need a direction on is how to budget for this. If the board would like it to see it come from Fund 2 and move back to the general fund, or I can do that at the next town meeting, or we can wait and make a budget transfer with monies that were left over from fiscal year 22's budget once the audit is completed.
Will that affect access if we wait?
No,
Okay, so we still have consulting available to us.
right.
Okay. Board, any thoughts from the board regarding how to move forward? Budget transfer or waiting?
I think we should just wait until we get the audit done and then instead of just transferring money over. Always end up with access messes some money in. And should be enough to cover him for the 9 months.
We anticipate that.
I'm
surplus-
sorry, I was making my notes.
Do we anticipate a surplus or a residual amount from the 2022 budget that would cover the expense of $29,000, almost $30,000?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Davis.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I was just wondering, are there any duties that we can take away from the planner to give him more time to concentrate on his main job?
I would keep his services, what he's listed here. The areas of annexation, development, project review, code amendments. He could potentially look through our code. I know there's many areas in the zoning and planning code that need updated. Those areas.
Okay, yeah, I was just wondering if there's the current planner, our current guy, can we get him to concentrate more on his key job of town planner instead of
Well, if
other?
you find a way to get rid of MS4, he'll have all the time in the world.
Well, I'm working on
He's
that.
working on it.
I'm working on
So,
that.
I mean, that's the only thing that's going to free up the majority of his time is the MS4. And unfortunately, that's not going away. At least right now. So I don't see, I think this is a good start here. I mean, maybe once he gets into it, we can see some other things. But I think this is a perfect start.
Any other questions for staff? Okay. So I'll just go sort of a quick consensus piece. So it felt like the consensus was we intend to wait till the audit is complete to identify the funds from the 2022 budget being available for this expenditure. Is that accurate?
Yes.
You want to wait for the audit and come forward and spend the money? Okay, so we have consensus.
Mhm.
Do you need a vote from the board for direction?
No,
No. Okay, so consensus is sufficient for your need.
yes.
Okay, very good. All right, so at this time, can we move forward to the next agenda item, or is there more to say about this?
You have to approve the contract, please.
Okay, all right. So is there a motion to accept the contract as presented?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second for the motion? The motion was made by Commissioner Davis. It was seconded by Commissioner Sweeney. Is there any further discussion?
No, I'd just like to add, this is one of those things where I'm very torn on. I am going to vote to approve this. Like a trial run basis, I think till June, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any other discussion? Therefore, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any nays? The motion carries 5-0 with all board members present. Okay, now at this time, we turn to agenda item number 6.
Okay.
This item is consideration for a lease at 303 West Lincoln Avenue. We have a presentation from staff.
Yes, thank you. This is for the lease for Christ Community Church Pastor John is present if you have any questions. Just some background information. The current lease started October 1st of 2016 and ran through September 30th of 2020 with the option to renew for additional 2 years, which then it ran from October 1st, 2020 to September 30th of 2022. The rent, the first and second year was $1,600. The third and fourth year is $2,000. The fifth and sixth year was $2,200. However, we did an amendment with Pastor John on July 14th of 2020, where we reduced the rent in October 2020 for 6 months, mainly due to COVID and lost revenue for the church to $2,000. On April 2021, it went back to the 2,200, the 2,200. So this is a lease addendum to the current lease. It would take effect on, it's kind of retroactive, October 1st, 2022, and it shall expire of its own terms without further notice on the 30th day of September 2024. During the first year, the term of the lease and commencing on the first day of October 2022, the rent would be $2,500, which is a $300 increase. And during the second year, the commencing on the first day of October 2023, the rent would increase to $3,000, which is a $500 increase. Number 4, the landlord shall have the right to enter the leased premise at all reasonable times to examine. We would provide 24-hour notice advance of any showings, because as you know, Pastor John and Christ Community Church are in the process of building a new facility. The landlord agrees that the showings will not interfere with church functions. The tenant shall have the right to terminate this lease by providing written notice to the landlord not less than 60 days prior to the last day of desired final rental month. And then it goes into some just relet. The landlord may relet the lease premises to such persons for such term at such rent as may seem appropriate. If Pastor John would we don't know how long it is going to take to build the facility. So we wanted to give him a long enough lease that hopefully would satisfy the construction of the facility. I know the mayor worked with Pastor John on these terms, and from what I understand, he is in agreement with them. But again, he is here if you have any questions for him.
Thank you. Any questions for staff first? No, any questions for Pastor John? Okay, is there a call to vote? Is there a motion to accept the lease as presented, or do we need more time to look at it?
Okay, I'd like to say something.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I guess the way I'm looking at this, a couple of things come to my mind. This building has been in town possession for a long time. The building is paid off. I know we had some issues with the roof. I think we kind of patched those up over the years. I don't know if we have officially fixed it yet.
We did this summer, I believe, this
And-
summer or fall, beginning of fall.
And as my time on the planning commission, I've learned that while it's great, new businesses come into town, whether they be for profit or not nonprofit, they're a costly affair too. Going through all the fees and plans and very time consuming and costly. I know we reached out, we did a really great thing at COVID time, kind of put a stay on the lease. It didn't increase. I'm wondering, we're gaining about $10,000, if my math is correct, over the next 2 years. I'm questioning the significant jump for this year, and then especially that last year. Just jumped out at me. And that's all.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions or comments?
No, I got to agree with with Commissioner Ritz. Is there any reason we can't keep it at 2,500 for both years? I mean, they have a new project going on with all the permits and things that they have to go through, both town and county. They're gonna have a beautiful building when it's done. It'll make the east end of town even look better. Plus, it'll give us the opportunity to do something more with that building, whether it be lease it again or sell it. That's just my thoughts.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, do you want to address that or?
Well, one of the anomalies here is that we pay taxes on this property because we have a tenant, and we also have upkeep on the building, and we share in the expenses there with the church, and we want to kind of get a schedule to bring this thing in for Lanny. If we're going to start showing it, somebody's going to want to say, I want it by then. And so we want to keep just a tad of been a wonderful tenant, Pastor John, and we worked together with you. We gave you free rent to get started and everything like that. And it was vacant for many years. And but our expenses there are probably they're not slight to keep this building going. It's got some problems with it. It's got an internal drainage system from the roof that those things are made to rust out, and it's just the design. It wasn't very well built, and he's suffered through many times. We've had water crisis up there, and we've kind of made that. But the main thing is we're extending it out here at that time. We're trying to get back to the original schedule. We know we gave a lot up at the very beginning just to help the church get going here. We want to get as many people churched as possible, but it was just felt that if we're going to try to market this thing, somebody wants to know when can I get it, and that's the only thing we want to do is just put a little pace on it that we can't go on forever and ever. And that's a really fair rent. I mean, this is half of the market rent that the appraisal came up with. So we're way below the market rent and we came from nowhere to do it. And he's a wonderful person, and we want to keep him in the community. But at some time we got to take a little nod toward the market rent for the building that we might be able to get. And there is off and on interest in the building. It's a wonderful siting right on the park. Wonderful place for maybe a daycare center, which we really need. And we just we got to bring it in for marketing. And I just go back that I don't want to hold myself to that, but I don't have it in front of me, but it's about half a market rent if we go to the $3,000. So that's where we are. And we do have expenses, lots of expenses, and we do pay taxes on it, insurance, and the good pastor pays the operating expenses of water and sewer, and we pay for all the insurance and other things like that. So that was the reason. And sometimes we have to look at that appraisal and say, whoa, we have a responsibility to everybody here. Yeah, I felt that I could properly defend it by being half off that rent because the history of the building that I know, that goes back to when it was the Catholic Charities building. I was on their board back in the late 90s and everything like that. So I understand when it was built, but that's it. So that's my only reason.
Okay. I'm going to vote no tonight then, unless we table it. I would like to see all that information. That would help me out with my vote.
All the appraisal?
Yes.
Well, it's been here in the, but
No, all I was going to say is that the lease actually expired the end of September. So he needs some sort of lease in place. So I would have to talk to the town attorney. I mean, obviously, we're not going to kick the pastor out. But how do I proceed if there is no lease? So. That's just,
I
mine.
mean,
I don't have,
the mayor makes a great point, in explaining all that, but I like to see it. It's like not part of the package. It would help me understand where.
I think part of the mindset is also that, let's say, somebody buys the building and we've already, that relet or whatever they call it, may relet the building. And so if somebody buys the building and sees what the current tenant is paying in rent, they're going to expect a certain amount in rent. It's up to the board to put whatever the rent and what the mayor recommends.
Go ahead.
So are we increasing the rent to make it more attractive to potential buyers or because it's necessary?
I think there was two schools of thought on it. This was a conversation between the mayor and Pastor John. And when I was given the rents, I confirmed it with Pastor John. He said that's what he agreed to. So that's where the numbers are.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, absolutely.
Pastor John, can I
Oh.
ask you a question?
Sure. Pastor John, what we'll do is we'll ask you to come to the dais and introduce yourself so we can hear you. And then question will be yours. Enjoy.
All right, Pastor John, Christ Community Church, 303 West Lincoln Avenue.
Hi, Pastor John.
Hi.
I understand you're trying to open up a new church and that's very costly. And as part of the planning commission, I've seen some of the changes that have been thrown at you that are adding up.
Sure.
So I'm just wondering how you're able to balance this increase and continue with your project of the new church. How does that impact you?
It's all a big impact. The church is a faith-based operation. It's every week it's faith and who's going to come in the door, and it's hard to figure how we're going to pay the increases, because basically you say, well, if it's going to go up $300 a month, there's $300 more giving, or the next year $500 or more giving a month, and so it's nothing that I can do to make that happen. It's just part of ministry, as well as the churches, the new church building, thousands of dollars every month already going out now, so that's going to continue. So it's going to be difficult, but
I think my concern on the increase is one of the schools of thought of making it more attractive for potential buyers. I understand when properties roll over that they can set that rent at whatever. I don't want to see that somehow imposed on Pastor John to make it more attractive for somebody else coming in. That's my concern, especially when he's trying to get up and running with a new church. And it's just pouring money. So I don't agree with increasing it to make it more attractive for somebody else. We're in the present moment with Pastor John. He's been a good tenant. And I think we need to take that into consideration.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments before we call the vote? Okay, hearing
you
no.
can make modifications to it and still pass the lease tonight.
Okay, so, and that's kind of what I'm hoping for.
You need a motion to.
Well, we made the motion. We're in discussion right now.
Did you make the motion?
No,
we haven't. Okay, I'm sorry.
Since-
Getting ahead of myself. Pardon me.
since I just see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's not like he's going to plan on being there forever. 2 years, he's going to be gone. I just want to do something to help him with his new project, and make sure that happens. It's like everything else. The world is all over the place, and You just don't, you don't know what's going to happen with people coming to church, So I'd like to see us just stay at the 2,500 for the next 2 years. And then when it goes out for sale or we bring in a new tenant, like you said, it's sat empty for how long? So it's not like we have a line of people waiting to rent the place or to buy it, at least not that we know of.
So quick question then, Mr. Davis, just for clarification, to yourself and to the board. That seems to be the impasse, the increase and the motivation behind the increase. So we're looking for $2,500 for a 2-year lease, $2,500, sorry, monthly for the 2-year lease. Did I get that? Did I hear that correctly? Okay. Mr. Ritz, any thoughts on that?
So currently it's 22. That is correct. And we're looking to increase it to 25 now.
Correct.
And Commissioner Davis is suggesting that second year, instead of increasing it to 3,000, maintain that $2,500.
Yes, sir. Okay. Mr. Sweeney, any thoughts?
I have no problem with it.
Okay.
And my reasoning being, this is two projects that came up in a row that we have put off over the years. And now we're going to try to, catch up all at one time. We should have been looking at these things down the road and making little increments instead of, I know I'm getting off subject with the water thing, but trying to tell somebody I'm going to raise your water rate 150%. They're going to go, what, why haven't you planned for that better? And this is just another project that I think we should have done it better with smaller increments.
Okay. So now for clarification. Is there a motion to accept the contract as modified?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second for Commissioner Davis's motion?
I'll second that.
Thank you. The motion was made by Commissioner Davis. It was seconded by Commissioner Ritz. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody against? The motion carries 5-0 with all commissioners present. Thank you. Okay, so we now turn to staff for the agenda for the November proper date, sorry, the November 7th, 2022 town meeting.
So for November, for administrative business, you'll have the proclamation for Municipal Governments Works Month, November 2022 for consideration. Agenda item number 1. I'm not sure on the wording on this now. For discussion, increases to water and sewer rates. Since we're not having an ordinance, there's no need to call it a public hearing because you're not voting on it. So we'll have it as a discussion item again on the water and sewer rates.
And then we'll vote on that in
December, yes. So we'll do a public hearing with the ordinance in December. Number 2, hold a public hearing, then consideration of ordinance 2022-10, which would allow private shooting ranges in the industrial zone. Number 3, for consideration, approval of ordinance 2022-11, which would allow the use of firearms at private shooting ranges in the town of Emmitsburg.
Can I ask a question?
Mhm.
If this doesn't go through planning and zoning, then it won't be on this. Let's go through planning and zoning first. Is that what? Has to do?
Yes, Commissioner Sweeney, it would go to the Planning Commission. And the Planning Commission can do, well, I was going to say 4, technically, we did a 5th at the last meeting. So we can recommend to approve that zoning text amendment without any comments. We can approve to recommend it with comments. And then the same goes for not recommending it. Then it comes back to the Board of Commissioners, where we would understand that, hey, the Planning Commission, maybe they did not recommend this, but we're taking their guidance on it. Did I explain that?
Yes.
You're correct. So the only way the board wouldn't hear it is if the applicant would withdraw again.
That was the fifth one,
Right.
which happened last time. He did withdraw it to add some more information. And I believe, I'm sorry to jump in, but I'm guessing,
fine.
Ms. Willetts, that number 3 that you just said, the 22-11, the firearms, because that's not part of chapter 17, doesn't pertain to the Planning Commission. So obviously, if that's passed, we would need that because currently you're not allowed to have firearms within the town.
You're
of
correct.
Emmitsburg. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
And then number 4 would be
Discharge firearms, I should.
correct.
Thank you.
For consideration, policy P22-01, hunting and recreational usage at Rainbow Lake and Watershed. Essentially, it's going to be just a change of one sentence to what Mr. Wance recommended. So that's easy. We'll have that at the next meeting. Number 5, for consideration, approval of resolution 2022-05R, which adopts the Frederick County's hazard mitigation plan. We have to do this or we will not be eligible for any federal funding if there is emergencies.
Okay.
Number 6. Rutter's Forest Conservation Easement Removal Request, discussion and consideration. Number 7, discussion and consideration of amending town code to allow for fences greater than 4 feet tall in front yards. And number 8, decline to accept dedication of 4 open space lots at Brookfield, conditioned upon approval of the Brookfield HOA for consideration. That's what I have.
Yep. Is that besides the 10 lots?
Those are 4 open spaces, without Zach here, I'll try to explain it, that were supposed to be dedicated to the town at the Brookfield development that were left for open space for like playgrounds and such. And the town doesn't want them because Brookfield doesn't want anything in there. So it's basically giving it back to Brookfield.
Okay.
I believe that's the explanation.
Okay.
The hazardous mitigation plan, do we have copies of that?
I do.
You do?
I can email or put on your desks.
Either way.
I'm
I
trying to
can-
think what I have. I think I have digital copy.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to review it, please. Thanks.
You just send that, you'll send that to all of us.
Mhm.
Thank you.
I'll have to explain it to you, but
Thank you.
Any other agenda items from the board related to the the November 7th, 2022 meeting?
No, because we're not doing the Wealthy Avenue parking. I think we pretty much clarified that. Yes.
Your call. If you want it, you're welcome to add it. I have
What was the time frame again?
I don't know.
we don't know yet.
We're gonna have him, I emailed Mr. Click to reach out to the contractor to see when the work will be done.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. Weren't we gonna have, not to switch gears here, weren't we looking for a ordinance or policy regarding the addition of agenda items after a meeting?
So the town attorney, actually Clark Adams, is working on that for me.
Okay,
I don't have it yet.
so we probably won't see that in November.
No.
Okay,
It'd be ironic if we don't.
He
have it on
said
the agenda.
historically, since we have always sent it through the president of the board, historically that is allowed. But as soon as I get it, we'll put it on the agenda.
okay. And then I guess because of last month, I would feel more comfortable in just adding that as an agenda item now for the Weldy Avenue parking. We can always pull it. Because if we don't have that in place, I don't want to not have it.
What,
then have to
what
add
is it exactly? What are
Well,
we looking to do?
Um,
Because I thought it was to come up with a plan for their parking
mhm.
and that's kind of what we're doing.
And then after from this point right now tonight until next month, I'm sure that the contractor will get a hold of you and or Mr. Click or somebody, and then either they're not, are they just gonna proceed and do it? Or are they gonna discuss?
No, they're
Like
gonna
what-
do it. We already gave them the plan. We gave them the drawing with the lines and the spaces and the numberings. They've given us a price to do it. It's just a matter of them.
The ball's in their court. It's not on us. So we're waiting for that information.
Right.
At least,
And as soon as I get it, we're gonna post everybody's door with, this is what's happening. You get two, if you're a townhome, you get 2 numbered spots. These are your 2 numbered spots. You can't park in somebody else's spot. It is enforceable by the town code. Single family homes have a driveway and 1 spot on the road that will be lined and numbered. I think there's 1 home that doesn't have a driveway that gets 2 spots. I have to look at the plan.
I'd like to keep it as an agenda item for discussion, and here's why. If the contractor falls through with us, I think it would give an opportunity for residents in that area to at least express their concerns, and they wouldn't be limited to the 4 minutes for a public comment. Now, that said, if the contractor comes in and gets it all done, then we can go ahead and take it off. We only heard from Mr. Buckheister. There might be other, there might be consensus with his neighbors. Maybe there's a differing opinion. We're only hearing
In the
from
first
one.
meeting, there were other neighbors.
Yeah.
There was at least one other neighbor who was.
One, that was it. But I know there are several people that live down there.
Right.
So I'd like to hear the whole thing.
So agenda item number 9, Wealthy Avenue parking. How do you want to describe it, sir? Parking update?
Yes.
Okay, Wealthy Avenue parking update.
Yeah, because I think it was also said that we would let them try it for several weeks to see if it solved their problem. That way they can come and say, hey, yeah, this is good, or no, it isn't. And here's what we'd like you to look at again. And so it's just kind of broad, but hopefully we can wipe it off. There won't be a discussion.
Right. Just for item number 1, I'll have to get with the town attorney to make sure that that's the correct language for the agenda. If I need to update the language, I'll certainly email the board and let them know.
Okay. I'd like to throw something in for administrative business. As promised in the last meeting, I'm following up on a request for information related to the trail, and the item would be an update on trail use, damage, and repairs.
I emailed you today.
I saw that. No, that's not the issue. I'm just trying to
Oh.
address it in the form as promised. So the board is aware of where the trail is and where we hope the trail will be in the near future.
What is the item?
So for administrative business, just to provide an update on trail use, damage, and repairs. And that's all I have for administrative business. Is there a motion to accept the agenda as presented for the November 7th meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second for the motion?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Motion's been made by Commissioner Davis. It has been seconded by Commissioner Ritz. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone against? The motion carries 5-0. Staff, any other items we need to be aware of? No? Okay, very good.
I do have one thing.
Yes, ma'am.
If I didn't mention, hydrant flushing begins the week of October 10th. Notice has been posted on Facebook website, and alerts will be going out towards the end of the week.
Okay. Will there be any mailbox or flyering or anything of that nature for homes or?
No.
No, okay. Okay, very good. Hopefully our friends in the media will share that in the viable forms. Okay, is there a motion to close the meeting?
I make a motion, close the meeting.
Is there a second for the motion?
Second.
Motion has been made by Commissioner Sweeney. It has been seconded by Commissioner Bowman Pollitt. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries and the meeting closes at 10:15, October 3rd, 2022.